525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in the life? How about love? How about love? Love, measuring love, seasons of love.
A list of things that don't really matter and reasons as to why. Number 1, white guilt. Because while it's nice to know that you feel uneasy in the pit of your stomach every time February rolls around as your annual reminder that, yes, we still remember how your ancestors enslaved ours, and oh, yes, we know what you did last summer, last month, last week, shoot, maybe even this morning, and we really wish you would stop doing it. Whatever it is to you, that is your white guilt, and it doesn't matter unless it gets you to move. Number 2, white feelings. Because while it's cute, you feel my hair looks cute, what's not cute is you feeling my hair. You feel me? There's a difference. There's right and wrong. There's left and right. There's yours and mine. There's you always getting those two lines confused as if they intersect when they don't. You. The one who was born to believe that whatever your eyes could see is yours to have and keep. You. The one whose hands were never taught to stop being so grabby. You. The one who was raised to say whatever it is that you wanted to say, but the N word with the ER on the end and or the one that ends with the A is not for you to say. So stop asking me why. It's because you just can't, Becky. You just can't. And I'm sorry, not really, that your lack of being able to say a word that offends so many makes your white feelings feel oppressed. Because you just love hip-hop culture. Seems like that word is just circling all around you. You just want so badly to say it too. But if you really want to connect with our culture, then deny yourself of the privilege of ever being able to use that word. Trust me, in that moment, you will be the blackest you have ever been, because there is nothing more African American than being a minority in a space, hearing things said that you've always wanted to say, seeing things being done that you've always wanted to do, and then remembering that you just can't. And we don't need you to feel bad about that, see, because your white guilt doesn't regraft the missing limbs back to our family trees, just like your white feelings don't refill the empty branches from all of the missing apples that did fall too far from the tree. They were picked too soon, they were sold too cheap, they were shipped too far. And you wonder why we got mama's boys, wonder why mama trees refuse to leave the apples of her eyes, wonder why her branches refuse to drop the fruit even after it is overly ripe. It's because of the list of what actually does matter. Like Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown, me, my mother, my brother, and dad, all of the other Black lives that do matter. And if you need a list of reasons as to why, you are the reason this poem exists in the first place.
What would you do if you had $1 million? $1,000,000, where would you go? If you had $1,000,000, where would you go? Would you travel to outer space, stare the heavens in the face? If you had $1,000,000, where would you go? Money comes and money goes. The path it takes, God only knows. It's not about how much, but what you do that counts. If you had $100, who would you call? If you had $100, who would you call? Would you dial up the preacher man, say do with it what you can? If you had $100, who would you call? Money comes and money goes. The path it takes, God only knows. It's not about how much, but what you do that counts. Yeah. If you had just $1, what would you do? If you had just $1, what would you do? If you saw me on the street, ragged clothes and shoeless feet, living somewhere in between an empty dream and broken soul. So if you asked me for $1, we're late. I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, we are late. Things are steady moving and changing, and unfortunately, we're late. I'm Subway, by the way. Now, when I say we're late, it may not be in the way that you think. 5 minutes late for work, not that big of a deal. A few days late on the rent, a small late fee may incur, but you won't find yourself out on the street. No. What I'm talking about is being late on life. Late on knowing who we are and where we come from. I look at it like this. History. Our history is like a subway train. While it's happening, you don't pay it much attention. It comes, we see it, and then it's gone. It's only later that we realize something important has happened, and we could have and should have been a part of it. Like that subway train that passes you while you stand on the cold concrete platform, staring at the faded numbers on the side of the train, knowing that was your train, and you missed it. But what about the history that has happened before we got here? The trains that have come and gone ahead of our arrival. Thomas Rice started it with his song and dance show, making fun of us like we were some second or third class citizens. Then they started talking in codes using the term Jim Crow, which we all knew meant Negro. Before the sun could set and the moon could rise, we started getting word that we had to take tests to vote, to prove to them that we were competent. The whole thing was just ridiculous. You know, in 1900 Louisiana, 5,300 blacks were registered to vote. By 1910, only 730 blacks were registered to vote, and those who were not eligible to vote could not serve on juries or run for local offices. The foundation was being laid to exclude us from all forms of government, to snatch away our voice one song at a time. Our schools were underfunded, and local libraries had to resort to using secondhand books just to remain open. And that wasn't the worst of it. Plessy versus Ferguson gave us nearly 60 more years of separate but equal. Discrimination, lynchings became commonplace, but for the grace of God and some good folks on both sides that just wouldn't give up, we claimed small victories. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 put an end to Jim Crow for the most part. Hold fast to dreams. For if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Langston Hughes. History doesn't always know that it's history. Kind of like how my stomach knows I probably shouldn't have had that third burrito this morning, but that's neither here nor there. But a seed doesn't know that it will one day become a tree. But everything in every moment happens for a reason. Think about this. Would you knowingly take a route to work that was filled with bumper-to-bumper traffic that would make you 30 minutes late for work? You probably wouldn't. But imagine your thoughts when you later found out that on your normal route to work, there was a 5-car accident and that 3 people were seriously injured. We can't anticipate fate. It just happens. What would you do for history? Would you declare war on poverty? Would you speak against injustice? Would you stand on a balcony? Room 306 was my room. Every time we came to Memphis, it was room 306, aka the King Abernathy Suite. I guess there's comfort in the familiar. It's a shame with all we tried to accomplish, it all ended on a balcony. But I'm glad we were able to at least turn the corner on racial equality. The progress we made with the bus boycott, our work in Selma, and the March on Washington gave us a voice. And we proved that we could be heard within our language of nonviolence. Some may not understand our theory, but I decided long time ago that I never wanted to live in a world where guns and bombs were used to solve problems. Imagine what kind of world that would be. And besides, after the bullets fly and the smoke clears, problems still have to be solved. Differences still have to be worked out. And we all still have to learn how to live and get along with each other. But that's for you folks to figure out. All I have left lies here on this balcony, but my spirit remains intact. And my spirit believes that the dream will come true for all the sweat, tears, and pain that'll cost us. I still believe that. Bobby summed it up nicely. Even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart until in our own despair, against our own will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God.
God, can you hear us? God, can you hear us? We're calling you. We're calling you. Nobody's listening. Everybody's screaming. So we're calling you. We're calling you. Oh, oh, only you can turn this train around. We grab a rail to keep from falling down. There's got to be a better way, 'cause heroes never come to save the day. We will stand on mountains high. Should darkness come, we'll shine a light. Let us all together sing as we unite. Freedom will ring. This is our prayer. This is our prayer.
Answers. We have a few answers. A few answers to explain and educate ourselves about the past. But what's next? This is the future. The history we can't yet see. It's a given. It's a given that we don't have all the answers, but our tragedy would be in not knowing the questions. How will our history look tomorrow, 10, 20 years from now? Who will be our leaders in industry, agriculture, and finance? Which one of us will cure cancer, stop genocide, and push the boundaries of science? Who is called to drag technology to the brink of what we can imagine and still declare the gospel as truth and God the Father as the Alpha and Omega? We are the future we don't yet see. The conductors of the subway trains that haven't yet arrived. The numbers on the side of the train, faded, discolored, unrecognizable. And even though the platform concrete is chipped, uneven, and a little difficult to walk on, there's still room for everybody. Room for the young and the old, and every ticket price is the same. The same blood, sweat, and tears that those before us have paid is the same price we must pay. And if your brother or sister is a little short, help them out. We're all in this together. Take care of yourselves. I got a train to catch, and I don't want to be late.
We will stand on mountains high. Should darkness come, we'll shine a light. Let us all together sing as we unite. Freedom will ring. This is our prayer. This is our prayer. This is This is our prayer.
Marvin Thompson, playwright, musician, and professor of music for Wayne County Community Colleges, creates works to inspire people to rise up and be heard politically and unapologetically. Welcome now, Marvin Thompson.
So, wasn't that an amazing performance? I have the creator of Two Chairs, which is what you just saw, Marvin Thompson. He's a playwright and a musician, and again, another one of my favorite people. I love him so much. He has a joke about me that every time we go anywhere together, I always make everybody my best friend. And
yes,
so,
this is true.
but this is how I grew to love. He's lovingly called Marty by everybody else. Marvin Thompson, thank you for gracing the Seasons of Love at home stage. How are
Thanks
you?
for having me. Fine, I'm good.
Good. So we just saw a play that you wrote called Two Chairs, talking about the history of the Black experience. How did you come up with the idea to do it? How did you come up with Two Chairs? I thought that was so creative.
Well, I wrote it a few years back. The idea was just to come up with something that kind of gives viewers a snapshot of historical Black figures from our past. Mm-hmm. Some are familiar, some are ones we were not so familiar with, but just to give people kind of a close-up view of our history. Mm-hmm. Two Chairs, the title came about, was one chair represents the narrator of the story. The second chair represents the historical figures that he plays throughout the production. So that's kind of where Two Chairs came from.
Awesome. I remember the first time I saw it, I brought my mom to see the play, mm-hmm. and we were blown away. And so, I appreciate how you use all of your talents to inform our understanding of who we are as people. But you do it in a way that is accessible to mm-hmm. people outside of the Black community or people of color. How do you think that your work or your body of work, because you're more than just a playwright, you're a musician as well, how do you think that we could use music and creative arts to bring unity and understanding in a lot of ways? I think what we are in short supply of, empathy mm-hmm. for other lived experiences.
Well, I think you can do it within your art form. I always look to people like, say, Nina Simone, who was a classically trained pianist. She was a performing artist, but she spoke up about political issues and her political views. And that was kind of a outrageous thing to do in her day, because she had a nerve to be Black, a woman, and to speak out about politics. That was not a popular thing to do. So I think as artists, we do have a responsibility to not only entertain and to have fun, but to also use our platform to speak out against those things that we feel needs to be improved upon within our society as a whole. It's fun to kind of do the things that make people laugh and have a good time, and you want people to get relaxed and just not always think about their problems and issues that are going on. But I think you also need to use that same platform to promote equality, promote all the things that would make life better within the art form that you're in. I had a gentleman once tell me a few months back that I should consider, running for office or something. I'm like, no, that's not my thing. But I think you can, within what you do, you can speak to politics and you can speak to different things and make it accessible to people within what it is that you do. So if you're a painter, you can bring that to life in your painting. If you're a musician, you can play things or write things to kind of let people know what you stand for. So I think you can do it within what it is what your natural gifts are.
Awesome. Now I know your lovely wife. She's an educator, and the way that you communicate, through your art form, it educates, not just mm-hmm. entertains, but it gives us an understanding that maybe we didn't come in the room with. Mm-hmm. So how important do you think that blending education with your art? Because, you know, you and I have had long discussions over how, and I know y'all tired of me saying stupid, but I think lots of things in the world are stupid. You know, the things that we hear on the radio,
Right.
the lyrics are stupid. They're not talking about, and I'm going to use Ebonics, they ain't talking about nothing. And I think that's why we have so many clueless people in the world, because we don't bring our intellect to our art. What do you think? How important do you think that is?
Well, I think that's extremely important. I look at, as you said, some of the artists that are out now, and if you look at their backgrounds, they're more educated than they want to present to their audience, because for some reason people think that it's almost a mentality that stupidity sells, and you have to dumb down your own intellect in order to get people to buy into your art or your music. So I think that's that's stupid in my opinion, because if you have the ability to educate and bring people a little bit higher, I don't know why you wouldn't do that. And to me, you know, no money or no amount of fame is worth that price. But I think education is always important. And to educate on the level where people are at, I think is really important, because people need to be able to understand what it is you're saying, and you don't want to put your art or your message so high on the shelf that it can't be reached by people, you know, that are near the bottom. So you want to make sure it's reachable for everybody, and that what you're saying makes sense. I hear a lot of, you know, there are a few artists out now that you hear talking about saying things like, you know, slavery was jobs for black people, and it's like you have this revisionist history where people just kind of making things up, and if you don't do your research, you tend to believe things from somebody just because they have a platform, or just because you see them on TV, or just because they have, you know, 2 million Instagram followers. It's like, do your research and figure out what's real and what's not. And I think as artists, we have the ability to do that, and we should be like on the forefront of making sure people are given the truth.
Awesome. I totally agree. So Marv, as we close, how can people get in touch with you, follow you on social media? Do you have anything exciting coming up? We're getting ready to work on another song together.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
So we'll be doing that very soon. The Rashida Project will be out. So you can reach me. I'm on Facebook, Marvin Thompson Jr. Instagram and Twitter is M Thompson Jr. We're looking to do a virtual kind of presentation of 2 chairs in its entirety in the next couple of months. So look for that, which will be available online, since we're kind of on lockdown now. And we're also looking to tie in a piece for educators involved in the play, since a lot of people are teaching from home virtually, where we can kind of educate our kids through the play and incorporate the music and a little bit deeper history of some of the characters that we talk about in the play.
Awesome. And so, you know, one of the things that you laugh about me about is that I'm always coming up with ideas. When I first saw a play, you and I spoke about it, I was like, this needs to be in the schools and all of that. And so, you know, I would love to see you take this to different schools, especially, you know, since we are, you know, online for the most part. I would, you know, I'm speaking that for you. I'm believing
Yes,
God
I believe
for
it.
that for you. That God will give you an open door into, you know, places of education, just so that we can have a different narrative that runs counter to what society, the lies that society would have us try to make us believe about who we are and where we come from, and what we have contributed to society. I mean, you know, we are here. Yes, slavery was not a job for black people. Slavery was black people being made to work for free, and
Right, we didn't have to fill out an application to apply to be free labor.
There was no retirement. There was just death.
It was.
And so, yeah, so thank you, Marv. What I love about your play, and what I love about you in general, is that you are such an honest creator. You, what you see is what you get, and what we get is amazing. So thank you for your gift and for sharing it today.
Thank you for having me.
Marvin Thompson, everybody.
Thanks.
So long, but
Real love songs take time, yeah. It's easy to rush like we used to, but this time tells us to slow down, slow down. You might miss the beauty in breathing, the beauty in seeing God. If you rush, you might miss the beauty in breathing, the beauty in seeing God. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be just fine. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be just fine. November 3rd don't define us, but you better get out and vote anyway. November 3rd never defined us, 'cause I serve a king. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. You're gonna be just fine. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. You're gonna be just fine. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. You're gonna be just fine. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. You're gonna be just fine.